I now recognize Ms. Green from Georgia for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like, for the record, to address something that one of our colleagues across the aisle was talking about, which was Asian hate in reference to President Trump. President Trump never spoke any language of racism or hate. He did, however, call, and many of us have, called the COVID-19 virus the Wuhan flu, the China virus, because we feel it originated from China. I'd like to also state for the record that many viruses and diseases are named after the area that they come from, like the West Nile virus from West Nile, Uganda, Rocky Mountain spotted fever from the Rocky Mountains, Marburg virus from Marburg, Germany, Zika fever from the Zika forests of Uganda, Japanese encephalitis, German measles, and I could go on and on and on. We're really tired of the racism and name calling, and it needs to end. But we're really talking about the origins of COVID-19 here today, which is shocking to me because honestly, we've been talking about the origins of COVID-19 for 3.5 years. And every common sense American that I know pretty much understands where it came from. Came from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and doesn't really care if the intelligence community says it did or didn't. I would like to point out that here we are. The intelligence community is able to figure out immediately who was leaking classified information in a Discord chat, but yet still doesn't want to say whether it came from the lab or didn't come from the lab. The intelligence communities seem to release or not release information based on how the information will affect the government that it seems to protect. Yet unfortunately, so many times it doesn't release or not release the information the people that it serves and I'll remind everyone is paid for by the taxpayers of America. I would like to point out that the State Department fact sheet on January 15th, 2021 knew a lot of information about the Wuhan Institute of Virology. So that means our intelligence community knew a whole lot more before that. They knew the U.S. government believes that there were several researchers inside the Wuhan Institute of Virology became sick in the autumn of 2019. Before the CCP first reported cases of COVID-19. They also knew that the CCP was preventing journalists, investigators, and global health authorities from accessing the Wuhan Institute of Virology. They also knew that starting in 2016, well before this, the Wuhan Institute of Virology was researching the bat coronavirus with the closest relationship to SARS-CoV-2, 96.2% similar. The Wuhan Institute of Virology has published record of dangerous gain-of-function research. And the State Department memo also said that the U.S. government determined the Wuhan Institute of Virology collaborated on publications and secret projects with the CCP military since at least 2017. And you know what else we know? We know that Dr. Fauci in the NIH funded through grants, Eco-Alliance, with the gain-of-function research. We know that for a fact. Our government paid for it. Our taxpayers, unfortunately, unknowingly, paid for it. So we know all this to be true, and we know it was going on at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Mr. Lowenthal, with your dedication to being an analyst of information, why is it so hard to determine whether COVID-19 came from the Wuhan Institute of Virology or not?
Because the Chinese will not give us access to the information that we need. If they gave us the kind of access that Mr. Feith was talking about, if they gave us samples, if they gave us access to their records, and you will never be sure with the Chinese whether they're giving you the access that you want, we're never going to be able to say with a high degree of certainty. It's not. May I respond to something else that you said in your comments, Ms. Green? There is a vast, vast difference between tracking a leak on a social media site and determining the origins of this disease. And to compare the two is entirely fallacious, ma'am.
Dr. Lowenthal, you've said that you keep your intelligence claims and information nonpartisan. In 2018, Mr. Lowenthal, you were quoted in the New York Times saying that President Trump is the best president that Russia ever had. That sounds pretty political to me.
But I was no longer an intelligence officer at the time, ma'am. I'm a private citizen. I'm entitled
Well, I
to
think
my
you have a
opinion.
difficult time keeping your political opinions out of your political analyst. Mr. Ratcliffe, you are quoted as saying, to this day, the CIA, unquestionably the world's premier spy agency with an unrivaled capacity to acquire information and near limitless resources to do so, has continued to state that it does not have enough information to make any formal assessment. To put it bluntly, this is unjustifiable and a reflection not that the agency can't make an assessment with any confidence, only that it won't. Could you elaborate, please, Mr. Ratcliffe?
Well, I've talked about the overwhelming evidence on and intelligence on one side of the ledger that supports that the lab leak is the only plausible assessment at this point in time, and that conversely, that there really at this point isn't anything that ties COVID-19 to nature. I talked about the fact that no environmental source, no intermediate host, no reservoir species, nothing has ever been published that COVID-19 existed in any animal or species before the pandemic began. We make assessments all the time in the intelligence community with a fraction of the intelligence that we have available to us here. Again, I think this is a matter of won't, not can't, and I think that that it's unjustifiable when we're talking about 1 million Americans dead and as many as 10 or 15 million worldwide, and this contradiction that the current administration is taking through the intelligence community and that you've heard here today, that we'll never know the answer to this unless the Chinese cooperate, is a contradiction with those that say our goal here is also to prevent a future pandemic. We'll never be able to prevent it if we don't get the answers that we need with respect to how this happened in the first place.
Thank you, Mr. Ratcliffe. I think it's an issue of won't, not can't as well, and perhaps we need to look deeper into whether was China trying to sway possibly an election, a presidential election, or was it some type of bioweapon? I yield back. Thank you.
I would like to go back to the tweets of the racist person that works for you. What does caudacity mean?
I have no idea, Congressman.
You took 6 months to investigate one tweet. You didn't even figure out what the words meant?
I didn't investigate the thing. She's a DOD.
Well, you said in the Fox News article that you were going to take 30 days and investigate it, and it took you 6 months. In a 6-month investigation, you guys didn't learn what caudacity meant? I think you know. I think every person that's going to watch this exchange knows you know. She's trying to lash audaciousness with someone being Caucasian, isn't she?
I have no idea, Congressman.
Wow, what an investigation. When she says PD
I did
sessions,
not. I will say I did not do the investigation. She is a GS employee that's employed by DODEA.
Well,
DODEA conducted the investigation.
Gosh, the Pentagon told Fox News Digital that Gil Cisneros would provide a final decision in 30 days. So someone at the Pentagon is throwing your name out there as being responsible for this, and now it looks foolish that you're suggesting you don't know what that means.
Well, I would say that
hold on,
that
PD
quote
sessions.
did not come from
let's
me.
Go to,
I don't
let's
know
go to
who
this,
that came
Mr.
from.
Cisneros. What's a PD session?
My guess would be personal development.
Personal development. You don't think it's professional development? Another open matter for the investigation that it didn't resolve. So you don't know what caudacity means. She's obviously talking about professional development there. And like when she says, I had to stop, or let's go to the next claim. The caudacity to say that black people can be racist too. Mr. Cisneros, can black people be racist too?
I've already stated, Congressman, that I didn't agree with her statements.
But I'm asking
Department
about
of
that
Defense
provision.
didn't
Can black
agree with the
people be
statement.
racist?
This question is about me or my personal beliefs, but again,
You're
I
the
don't,
leading official over DEI.
I don't
A
agree.
racist person who works for you puts out these tweets, and you won't say whether you agree or disagree.
I told
with
you
the
I
statement.
said-
Chairman, I
I
just want
don't
to remind
agree with
members to
their
observe standards of decorum.
This
Is that
is
okay?
decorum. It's my time. Can black people be racist?
I do not agree with that tweet.
Do you agree with that statement? I'm asking you a statement. Can black people be racist?
I'm not going to answer that, Congressman,
Why not?
because you're asking me a personal opinion, and that's not what this
Well,
is about.
actually, I'm asking you in your capacity as a senior DOD official in the Biden administration where we see recruiting falling off the table, whether or not the embrace of racist tweets, whether shuffling these people around rather than firing them, and whether this little exchange here is helping or hurting recruiting. Let's go ahead and put up the recruiting.
I will tell you, we do not support racist tweets. We do not support racism.
Well, did you fire this lady?
Again,
You hired her.
As I stated, I did not hire her. As she was,
DOD hired her.
as it was stated earlier, she's a DODEA employee. She's a GS employee. The inquiry that was done said these tweets were done on a personal matter.
Oh, a personal matter.
How
How do you know it's a personal matter if you don't know that the PD can stand for professional development? Mr. Cisneros, this is a professional development session where she attacked white colleagues and took the position that black people can't be racist. Now, you can't answer basic questions about it, and here's what I would propose to you. This is what we're looking at in recruiting right now. It's fallen off the table. And when you have employees that you don't fire who do racist things and say racist things, then you really hurt the ability to recruit people who want to be part of an inclusive and diverse force.
I would say the data that we have is not, the recruiting is not falling off because of that. But again, the Department of Defense, DODEA, does not agree with the tweets that she made.
It was
She
at
is a
3 o'clock
GS.
during the workday. You didn't fire her. If someone puts out racist things, do you fire them or do you just move them around?
That was not an official, that's her own personal Twitter account.
Here's the problem with the double standard, Mr. Cisneros. When Caucasian members of the military post about the Second Amendment or supporting building the wall, you all seem to be on a white supremacy snipe hunt. You seem to take people's personal views and weaponize them against them. And I've had people in my district who serve that wonder whether or not some joke that they forwarded or meme that they liked is going to result in the ruining of their careers. But you have no such interest when it's a person like this. You delayed the investigation. Your own name was what DOD put out as conducting the investigation. You delayed it. This lady makes like $160,000 a year. Do you really think today the taxpayer should be paying this lady that amount of money?
The investigation was not conducted by me. That was never.
Well, why did the Pentagon say it was you?
I don't know who the Pentagon in that said that, but I will tell you it was a misstatement.
But
and it was
Mr.
not true.
Chairman, I seek to enter.
The investigation was
Well, I'll tell you
conducted
what,
by DODEA because she's a DODEA employee.
Well, if you just fired racist people, then maybe you wouldn't have to go through this. But, Mr. Chairman, I have a series of unanimous consent requests.
Without objection.
So first is Pentagon drags out decision after probe into woke diversity chief accused of anti-white people's tweets. The second is Wing selected as DODEA Chief of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and that is from dodea.edu. The next is Everybody Can Be Racist, DOD Chief Diversity.